All right, and we are live. Welcome back with Murphy Mac to another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast, where we help you get started on your fitness journey. What is going on, everybody? Hope y'all all having a great day. Today we have a special podcast interview for y'all. I like to do these interviews when we can and bring on different guests and that are professionals in their own industry. So today we have the privilege of interviewing David Amerland. So I'm going to bring him on to the screen now, and here he is. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself to everybody and just give everybody your little spiel about yourself.
Okay, Murphy, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate this.
Of course.
I'm David Amerland. Pretty wild trajectory. I'm a chemical engineer. I've been doing martial arts since I was 13. Fitness has always been part of my life. It was not something I intended to write about. For a large part of my career, I was jetting around the globe, talking to C-suite executives of Fortune 500 companies about business and branding and search and marketing. And all these things inevitably at some point always came down to health and fitness and energy management. And it's a no-brainer that if you can't manage the fundamentals of your health and your fitness, everything else falls by the wayside. You'll never be successful in your career, you'll never be successful in your life or your relationships. You'll never, ever even attempt to accumulate wealth because these things take energy. So inevitably my latest book, Built to Last, is a kind of blueprint, if you like. It's not prescriptive on how to actually attain all those things in a manageable way.
Okay, yeah, I was very interested in how you kind of got started because I've seen you've written a lot of books and they're all kind of business related. So I was kind
Yeah.
of curious, what is that segue into fitness from the business that you've done? How did you get into fitness? Like, what got you into fitness specifically?
That's a brilliant question. Well, essentially everything I write is about the same thing. Sure, I've written about search and branding and marketing and trust and later on decision making and intentionality, which was my last book, and this one is fitness. But all those things mine the same load. They look at human behavior, they look at us. How do we behave in different contexts? What actually drives us? Why do we do some things which we shouldn't do and don't do some things which we should do? And that's in fitness as well as in business. So human behavior is endlessly fascinating for me. And every time I sort of peel back the layers to understand it better, I attempt to basically expose our operating system. My ultimate aim is that we actually learn to behave better because we understand our own selves better. And when I say better, it's better for us. We make better decisions, we make better choices. We learn to control our emotionality so it actually serves us as opposed to just blowing things up.
So you say you've kind of studied why people make the decisions they make. So what are, in fitness specifically, what are some things that you've seen that has kept people from being able to see the actual benefits and the rewards from doing a successful fitness journey?
Okay, that's a really on-point question. And let's draw the picture first of all, right? We live in a world that's full of information. We can go on YouTube, we can go on Spotify. There are plenty of podcasts, plenty of YouTube channels actually telling us what we need in order to get healthier, stronger, fitter, and mentally more stable. All those things which actually make us better. We can get on the web and find infinite amounts of information. Our government programs all around us, the fitness industry is all around us. We spend globally $1 trillion a year on fitness equipment and fitness courses. If we have all those things, we should actually be healthier and fitter and better and stronger. The World Health Organization projection for 2050, 25 years from now, is that 50% of all adults are going to be either overweight or obese. We know that in the developed world, less than a third of people actually exercise more than 3 times a week. So it's abysmal. You know, things we actually do for our health are very, very little. So we have to ask why now. You said, coming to your question. If we know all those things, and if we take anybody off the street and say, okay, you need to be fitter, healthier, leaner, so that you can be happier in your life, they'll say, yeah, no problem. Intellectually, we know those things. So why don't we do it? And the reason we don't do it is essentially because exercise itself is a stressor. We're hardwired by biology to avoid stressors. We then tend to equate that stressor, which is exercise, to something we need to avoid, and we all have a resistance to it. We try to sort of do it, we fail, we say, okay, we'll try again, we kick the can down the road, we put things off, and in our head there's a calculus called temporal discounting. We always underestimate the effort it'll take to get us fit, and we overestimate the effort it'll take to get us fit, and we underestimate the benefits we'll get from that. So it's something which we project in the future, and it gives us a sort of a hall pass not to do what's necessary. And to sort of get to the real point, those who actually do something have had some kind of wake-up call. They've had perhaps a health scare. They have seen a close friend or relative die because of ill health, which was caused by lack of fitness. They have perhaps themselves gone through an emotional journey which has linked now their identity to their physicality. So now they feel that they need to have that control over their body. And these are the things which actually allow us to guide our behavior. When we sort of peel back the layers and look at the fundamentals, this is what we see. Every decision we make, which sticks, is emotional. And then we sort of put in a logic layer, which gives us the reasons why we do it. So if we don't really feel something for us, if it doesn't have a value for us deep down, we are unlikely to stick to it. And the figures every year are the same, right? Year after year, we get what? January, everybody joins the gym. Gyms are packed. By the middle of February, 50 to 60% of people have dropped off. And by the end of March, mid-April, only 15% of those who joined in January are still at it. So 85% of those people have dropped off. And yet 100% of those people started off with the intention to get fitter, healthier, and better for the new year. And the reason they fall off is not their intellectual capacity. They're smart people, they understand the benefits, not their willingness to do it. Certainly they showed up. And there's no lack of accessibility. Gyms are everywhere and we can always get equipment for home. But it's that emotional connection which we fail at. And until we actually create that emotional connection, it makes it very difficult to actually stick at something for very long.
Yeah, I like the emotional connection that you put there, because most of the time you see people that's made these drastic health changes. It's like you said, they had some kind of health scare or somebody in their family, something like that. And unfortunately, it has to get to that point and before they realize it. So that's kind of my whole goal of this podcast. I want to help people get to that point before it's too late, before they have to have that health scare or something like that. I like to look at fitness as, instead of it being something that I have to do, it's something that I get to do. So just by changing your mindset about it a little bit, it helps. It helps me for sure. Like I get to go work out. I get to go exercise. I don't have to go. If I don't want to go, I don't have to. I can stay home, but I get to do that. So it's changing that mindset helps me out a lot too as well. And I think it can help others. So I think people, it's like you said, people look at it as something that's stressful. It's a stressor, and it is, but it don't have to be that way. It don't have to be a negative thing always. It could be a positive thing. You can actually enjoy exercising whether you believe it or not. And that's me. I like to go to work out. Like working out, I do it first thing in the morning. It gets my day going, gets me started. Like I enjoy it. It's what I look forward to. If I don't go and work out in the morning, then the rest of my day just feels kind of off. You feel like you didn't do your normal routine. You feel kind of out of the ordinary. And that's just because it's a habit.
I'm so glad you mentioned this. I'm so glad you brought up mindset and also your own approach to it. Essentially, mindset is critically important. How we see things defines what we see. So if we look at a glass, for example, and it's 50% full, okay, we agree it's 50% full. But if you feel it's half empty, your feeling inside you is different if you say, oh, it's half full. It's the difference between optimism and pessimism. And you sort of basically have done the right thing by switching the way that you see a stressor as something that actually helps you manage your day better. So it becomes part of your personal empowerment. And that's critical to actually doing something which is difficult to do, but it's actually good for us. So yeah, mindset is absolutely key to how we approach these things.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that one. So your last book is on fitness called Built to Last.
Yeah.
So what's a little bit more about this book? What's the overall topic? And let's kind of dive into that a little bit.
Okay, so let's say, I mean, a book on fitness usually is kind of prescriptive, right? It tells you to do things. And this book doesn't tell you to do anything. But this is what it helps you do. It helps you see, because everybody's at a different stage, right? I mean, you are at a different stage of your life, I'm at a different stage. Our idea of fitness is going to be different. It's going to be based on whatever you think you need, whatever you know, whatever access you have in terms of equipment, whatever access or availability you have in terms of how much money you want to spend. You know, all those things are going to be different. So fitness is going to be different for everybody at a different stage of their life and depending on where they are. But we all need to actually get healthier and fitter. So instead of having our life fit into the idea of fitness, whatever it is, right, which we're going to have to force it into it, the book is there to actually help fitness fit into people's lives. And the difference in that approach is significant because by making fitness fit into your life, you take all the different parts of the book, which are essentially like a blueprint, and you realize what it is that you can actually do to help yourself get healthier, get fitter, feel happier, and be a better person by having greater mental stability, greater emotional regulation. So the book basically has zero prescriptions. It just tells you this is how we operate, this is why we operate. The fact that we all feel a little bit of reticence when it comes to exercise, that's natural. We all feel that. And it gives you some tips on how to overcome that and explains what happens in the mechanism behind that once you actually put those practical tips into operation. So it's basically an enabler. You take that and think, okay, this is how I operate, and this is what I should be doing to help myself better and this is the critical bit, at almost zero additional energetic cost. Because it's easy for somebody to say, okay, I'm going to bring a personal trainer. He's going to give me all these things to do every morning. He's going to give me all these things to eat every day. Then he's going to expect me to show up and do those things. And all those things we can perhaps manage for a while, but energetically they're a stressor, which is an additional stressor to everyday life, right? You have a life, I have a life. It's going to get messy. Things are going to get mixed up. We're going to get tired. We're going to get stressed. Unexpected crises are going to happen. So that additional thing which we have put there, no matter how well-meaning it is, it'll be difficult to stick to. But if it's something that's easy, that fits into our life, then it's easier for us to actually do it every day, like you've done with your own routine. You start your day, it's part of your ritual, it prepares you mentally, psychologically, emotionally for what you're going to face ahead. And as you said, if you don't do it, you don't feel right. And I totally get that. I think this is a really admirable way of actually making fitness fit your life.
Awesome. And so I noticed some of your other books are more business related. So what made you want to do this? I know you mentioned like everything you do kind of revolves around fitness.
Yeah.
So what brought you to write a book specifically about fitness? You kind of got away from the business side of things and brought it into fitness.
Well, there's two things. Okay, one is a natural kind of trajectory. Okay, when I wrote the Sniper Mind, essentially I brought in the sort of training and discipline of the military mindset into the business life, and what sort of lessons we can take from that in order to be more efficient and better at what we do. And there's a lot of sort of science behind all this because we actually have the tools now to analyze, in that particular book, snipers as they make critical decisions. So we sort of see the picture of how they put everything together in their head, and we take a kind of template which we can then apply to our life. And then the next book built on that, which is intentionality. If you want to live an intentional life, which is your life, and you want to go the way you want to go, well, what should you be looking at? And the background to all of this is that you have two things. You have ample energy to do that, and you're in good health. Because if you're not in good health, you haven't got ample energy anyway. So that was really the trajectory that led me to this book. But this particular book came about, its origin story is a little bit funny. I've got a home gym. With the pandemic. Training is important to me. So when the pandemic happened, I converted one of the rooms in my house into a full gym with equipment and everything. I have a friend who comes and trains with me once a week. He also has a home gym, and we sort of make a social thing. So we get together, we train together once a week, and he would sort of come and as we train, we talk, and he'd bring up the latest studies he's seen, or he'd seen some kind of article, and we'll discuss it, and I'll give him some sort of science behind that, and see what the research says. And out of this Q&A we sort of run over a couple of years, the spark for the book was born. So that's how it happened.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. And I'm just curious, if you don't mind, how old are you?
Yeah. I'm 60.
60. Well,
Yeah.
you look great to be 60 is all I'm saying.
Thank you.
If
Thank
you're
you.
not watching the video, this man is absolutely jacked. His biceps are popping out of his shirt right now. And I'm just curious, what does your fitness routine look like at the age of 60? What does that look like?
Well, I've been training all my life. I got into martial arts when I was 13, and for a long, I've got a black belt in Wadori, I've got a black belt in WTF Taekwondo. I'm a second degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo. I'm a certified Taekwondo instructor. So this is kind of the journey that I had sort of gone through. So the fitness element is part of who I am. That's the emotionality. I can't sort of picture myself without thinking that I'm capable in my body. I feel great. I'm able to do pretty much what I want. So to maintain that as I age now, I've changed things, right? I train every day. This is the thing. And I train a couple of hours a day. I train an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. And those sets are complementary. But like everybody else, I have a life which is messy. Sometimes my plans go awry. Sometimes crises happen, I have no time. So rather than feel guilty or fall off the wagon, what I do is I have already preset backup plans. So if I can't train those 2 hours a day, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to train for 20 minutes, and I've got a set of what I can do for 20 minutes. And if I haven't got those 20 minutes, I've got another backup plan where it says, okay, it's going to be a crazy day. I'm going to have zero time to do anything. And this is what I'm going to do. Before I hit the shower, I do 50 push-ups, 50 squats. And I hit everything, and I feel great. And I don't feel guilty. This is the big part. Because we are our own worst enemy. Sometimes we don't do what we should, and then the voice in our head says, oh, you failed. You can't stick at this. Your discipline is lax. You're not good enough. And then what happens? We feel so bad, we don't do it the next time. And then the next time. And then we stop. And then we have to feel really bad. We say, oh, I really need to start again. And this sort of start and stop holds us back. So it's true what they say, consistency beats intensity. Because the signal that you send from your body to your brain, which says I'm exercising, these are the pressures I'm actually putting my body through, these are the adaptations that must happen, then convert to a signal the body is going to send to the brain is going to send to the body that it needs to change. You need to have stronger muscles, you need to have greater endurance, you need to build the cardiovascular fitness, so the capillaries must be built out. You need to have the kind of control that requires a strong nervous system. So all these things happen and they have an energetic cost, but the signal must be there for that to happen. So you need to be consistent. So
Yeah,
that's what I
absolutely.
try to do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The consistency is like the biggest thing that I talk about on this podcast. Always, like it's always number one to pretty much any question when it comes to fitness, because it's just that important. Like it's gonna beat anything else when it comes to fitness. I mean, it's not. A lot of people think you have to do all these crazy hard workouts. You have to diet super hard. Like, yeah, those things are great. They are, but you don't have to do that every single day, day in and day out. You just need to be consistent over a long period of time. Like I like to say, when you're thinking of fitness, your time frame should not be days, weeks, or months. Your time frame needs to be years, because fitness is a lifelong thing. You're going to see major change over years. You're not going to see major change over a few days, a few weeks. I mean, yeah, you could see it over a few months, but you got to change that time frame. It's all about just being consistent. And that's one of the things that I talk about the most here, is just trying to get people in that routine of doing it day in and day out. And if you miss a day, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it and go the next day. Don't let yourself miss 2 days in a row. There's a 2-day rule. You can never miss 2 days in a row. You can miss one day, can't miss 2 days. You gotta make it back. And I'm like you. I'll beat myself up about it. Like I'll tell myself, yeah, I'm a failure if I don't do it. So I'm the same way. Like if I miss a day for some reason, you best believe I'm gonna be there the next day. That's a fact.
That's brilliant. I love
Yeah.
that. That's absolutely fantastic. And it's exactly the kind of philosophy it's a winner's philosophy, basically. We know now that, and this is the funny thing about it, right? The way we approach things basically affects the way that our body reacts. So if we say, for instance, as you do, right, okay, you missed a day, no problem, you're going to pick it up the next day, and it's great because it's a long run that actually matters. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we know that from a neurochemical point of view, the changes that happen to the body when you exercise are actually more significant. They are faster response times than if you beat yourself up about it. We don't exactly know why this happens. One of our suspicions is that essentially if we are under stress, under anxiety, if we tell ourselves we're not good enough, part of the signal the body gets dampens down the neurochemicals in the bloodstream that affect the major organs that allow these adaptations to take place. But right now this is just a theory, okay? But what we know from studies that show results is that the correlation is strong between people with a positive mindset and people with a negative mindset. So those with a positive mindset always pull through, always have better results. And there's a fascinating study I'm going to bring in here, carried out by by Stanford University. They looked at Navy SEALs in 2019. And they looked at 174 Navy SEALs as they went through their training, which is 4 weeks long. Week number 2 is Hell Week. The dropout rate on Hell Week is 75%. Now, those who are familiar with Navy SEALs know they're already trained soldiers when they apply to join that particular unit. They're already fit. They have the kind of correct mentality. They have discipline. They have confidence in themselves. So on paper, it's really difficult to see the difference between those who pull through and those who actually drop out. So they carried out the study and they were very precise in terms of measurements and blood tests and psych tests, and basically they filled out specific questionnaires, and this is what they found, that those who dropped out on Hell Week, this is what they thought in their head: this is really difficult, this is really grinding me down. And it's true, the training is actually designed to grind you down. This is hurting me and it's diminishing me. And the 25% actually pulled through. They said they had the same things almost. They said, this is really difficult, this is grinding me down, this is really, really punishing, but it's making me stronger. So that simple switch, the flip of how you feel about what you're doing, actually allowed them to pull through on almost impossible situations and become Navy SEALs. So it's significant that it's, again, that mindset, right? But it's also how you see things and how you frame them in your own head. So that's really important.
Yeah, to me that sounds like delayed gratification. They know the Navy SEAL at that moment in time, they know they're hurting, they know they're in pain, they're not having fun. But the ones that succeeded, they knew at the end there was going to be a reward. They were going to be rewarded for that, and that's what got them through. That's what made them stick to the end. So it's actually very similar to what I did this weekend. So I actually just ran a 100-mile marathon this weekend, ultra marathon.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I felt that the Hell Week, I felt like that the whole time.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
it was miserable, and I was not having a fun time. I was hurting, I was in pain, but I knew when I crossed that finish line, it was going to be worth it, and that's literally the only thing that kept me going. It was brutal. Trust me, it was my first one.
Yeah.
Very
Whoa.
hard. One of the hardest things probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and it was a cool experience. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I got the reward at the end because it was a delayed gratification. So that's an interesting study you had there. I like that.
That's so cool. People don't realize when you go through a race like the one you did, how important is that mental component to be able to sort of focus, not on what you're feeling right now, because you feel it, right? It's undeniable. The stress is real, the pain is real. You feel like stopping every step of the way after you get to a certain point. And yet what keeps you going is that ability to actually project yourself into the future. So that's amazing. Congratulations, that's brilliant.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I have this goal of doing one big challenge every year. So this year was a ultra marathon. But yeah, I definitely was wanting to quit about 72 miles in. I was in so much pain, I couldn't run anymore. I literally could not run. So I walked 28 miles to the finish line. And because I was dedicated, like I had to finish. And the only way I could get
Yeah.
there was by walking. So I walked for literally 28 miles, and it was the longest 28 miles of my life.
That's awesome.
But
I can't even imagine what it's like. It's really, really good. Congratulations.
it was a
Seriously.
it was a cool experience. It took me 28 hours and 35 minutes to do it. So literally I was out there for over a day. No sleep, ran through the night. It was a very cool experience. But
There's a very practical application to this, and again, people don't realize, but essentially the brain doesn't have redundant circuits. You know, the kind of grit and focus you applied when you were doing it physically, then it's the same kind of grit and focus that you apply when you face a crisis in your life. You don't use different neural circuits to deal with something which happened to, in your life, and it's putting you under a lot of pressure to actually getting through the pressure of a run like that. So it's really good training. This is a great example of how what we do with our body changes our brain.
yeah, that makes sense, I guess so. So let's see. You have in your book, so you brought up your book, The Sniper Mind. That's a,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's what it was, but you kind of explaining it brought this idea. So what are some tactics that a sniper may use that an individual like me or you could use to help us in our fitness journey to stay more healthy?
Okay,
That
that's
makes
a
sense.
great, yeah, it does, it's a great question. Okay, they do two things which are vital to health. They basically know how to manage stress. And the second thing is they know how to manage emotions. And everybody tends to think, if you watch the movies, that snipers are kind of emotionless machines, and they're not anything like that. They're just like me and you, right? They feel pain and fear and anxiety and uncertainty. But what they're really good at is basically embracing those emotions and flowing through them. So you acknowledge them so they don't control you, and then you basically make them work for you. So let's look at the practicalities. How do they manage stress? They manage stress by essentially being self-aware. Usually when we feel stress in our lives, and that affects our health, right? If we have stress, we have figures now show that your life is going to be shorter, you're going to have more problems with your health, and you're certainly not going to have a great time generally as you get older, because there are chronic conditions associated with that. So dealing with stress, you need to be self-aware, and once you're aware that something is happening, triggers, whatever it is, you need to have in place specific techniques to help you decompress. And snipers basically use breathing a lot, right? So they take a deep breath, hold it, exhale, and what they do sometimes, they do what is called a double sigh, where you fill up your lungs to the fullest, and then when absolutely full, you take a tiny little breath more, hold it, and then exhale. And we know that when that happens, you immediately decompress, because it activates what we know, what is the parasympathetic system in the body, which essentially brings down all your anxiety levels down to an acceptable baseline. But we also know from fMRI studies that if you take a deep breath, at the base of our brain, the limbic system moves by 5 centimeters, which is crazy. And we don't have nerves in our brain, we can't sense that movement. But if we're feeling stressed, our brain is already overloaded. What we actually feel is a kind of release, because the volumetric pressure from that movement makes itself felt and begins to basically release the pressure. So breathing is strong, and we can all do that. And we need to have that kind of self-awareness. If we feel things get too much for us, if we're feeling that we're losing control, if we feel that, life's just too hectic, being able to take a few deep breaths and really decompress helps clear our head, is very positive to our health. The other thing is emotional regulation, as I mentioned. If we're stressed, we can't control our emotions, we're likely to overreact, we're likely to lose control of how we behave, and the decisions which we're going to make then are not necessarily going to be the best ones. And making bad decisions usually doesn't lead to positive outcomes. And living a good, healthy, positive life, really, is just an accumulation of good decisions, small and large. And if we manage to make good decisions throughout our life, this is it. We're happier, we're healthier, we're more successful, we're better people generally. So how they manage emotional regulation is fascinating, because we can only control our emotions by acknowledging them. If we feel fear, anxiety, stress, well, anything which we feel like that, you say, okay, great, I'm fearful, and you have to analyze, what am I worried about? What is it that actually scares me? If we feel anxiety, again, where does it come from? We have this kind of inner monologue. And the moment we do that, it begins to become more manageable, because it places it in perspective. It doesn't go away. It's still there because it has a source and we're feeling it. But perspective is important in order to manage it. And if we don't manage it, what happens? It takes us over. Our body then overreacts. And the chemical presence of anxiety and stress in the body is felt by the brain like a threat. It can't actually differentiate between something which we think about and imagine and something which is very real. In order for the brain to respond, this is what it does. It shuts down all the critical thinking centers of the brain because they take a lot of energy. And it pumps energy into our bloodstream, into our major organs, because it prepares for action. But we can't really take any kind of meaningful action, so we're just stressed and we can't think right, which is not a good situation to be in if we're dealing with something which is critical for us. So being able to bring all those things down allows us to clear our head and actually think better and make those.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. I think I got you back now, though. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, there. Yeah, sorry, your screen froze
Okay.
for a second. Yeah, you're talking about stress, and yeah, I think that stress is something I think needs a lot more focus because stress alone can literally, like you said, it can be hard on you, but it can affect your workouts and your results from a
Yes.
from a fitness standpoint. Just being stressed alone can keep you from seeing any progress in the gym, any results, especially if your goal is like losing weight. If you're extremely stressed out, your body's gonna just hold on to the weight that you're trying to lose. It's not gonna
Yes.
work. So I think stress in fitness specifically, I feel like stress is kind of underrated. It needs to be more brought to people's attention because I know people talk about stress in their everyday life. That's pretty common. That's pretty popular, but not popular, but that's pretty known that it's not good for you. But in fitness specifically, it can definitely hinder your results. It can definitely have an impact on your workouts, how much weight you're losing, things like that. If you're trying to gain muscle, things like that. So it's stress is definitely a big one that plays a bigger role than most people realize when it comes to fitness specifically.
Absolutely, and I'm very glad you brought this up because this is how stress affects us. It affects us at two levels, and one you mentioned already. Basically, it affects the cortisol levels in our bloodstream. Cortisol levels elevate past a specific point, change the body's management of energy in our system, and basically help in the accumulation of fat in sort of both in around specific internal organs and subcutaneous fat. So this is a side effect of that particular level because the body is basically trying to store energy and it pulls it away from the bloodstream. But the other thing which it does is that when we're stressed, we are basically using up more ATP, which is then adenosine triphosphate, than if we were not stressed. And ATP basically is a fuel that every cell in our body uses. Our brain uses the same kind of fuel as our muscles. So if we get stressed and we have to do something, a big decision, we have to think about it, we're using ATP. If you then go to the gym, as you said, you already have used up a lot of your daily allotment of energy. So your workout now is not going to be very effective anyway. But not only that, but the body also knows that you're working out with less energy than before because there's less available energy, and it's disinclined to basically activate the changes that you need, the adaptations that you need in order to get fitter and stronger and faster and better. So yeah, stress has all those bad effects, and essentially lifelong stress is a killer. We know that it shortens your lifespan. So yeah.
Yeah, I like how so you pretty much said reducing stress and breath work. So
Yes.
another way I guess you could do that is meditating. Meditate can help kind of reduce stress
Yes.
and help you be more calm throughout the day. And that's something I have experimented with in the past. I haven't yet done the breath work. I know I need to try it because I've seen a lot of people talking about breath
Yes.
work lately. I've just kind of been putting it off because I don't I don't really feel like I need to do it, but it probably would help me if I did. So that's something
It's
I have
fascinating.
to play
Yeah.
around for myself.
It's fascinating. You mentioned meditation. We have again studies on this, right? Essentially, people who meditate regularly have more gray matter at the frontal lobes of their brain. They're more analytical. They exercise greater executive function, greater control over their executive function. They have better emotional regulation. But this also happens to people who do long distance running, because in order to get through what you're going through, you're almost going through a meditative process in how you focus
Mhm.
about what you're doing. So we see very similar changes in the brain from that perspective. So it is definitely fascinating, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it's like you always hear people say they get the runner's high. So I'm assuming
Yes.
that's kind of the same thing you're going for there.
The runner's high has a sort of neurochemical connection. Endocannabinoids are released in the bloodstream along with endorphins, and those receptors basically do produce a certain high for sure. Okay, not
Mm-hmm.
always, and certainly after a while, runners get used to it, and then they're chasing it forever, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes harder and harder to achieve. But the meditative experience and the running itself has more to do with the way that the brain basically coordinates different parts of it and produces very specific wavelengths of operation. And that's where the similarities between meditation and running come in. So, I'm pretty sure, if we could put electrodes in your head while you're running your 100-mile race, and you're pushing through the pain barrier, and you're projecting yourself, and you're controlling your emotions, which tell you, stop, what are you doing? I want you to stop now. And you're saying, no, I'm not going to stop. Okay, if we could have those electrodes, the profile of the electrical discharge of your brain would be very similar to a meditative state, which again allows you to get past discomfort and then project yourself into something else, so you can actually manage better your particular reality in that moment in time. So yeah, that's what it is.
That's interesting that running and meditating, two totally different things. I feel like
Yeah.
two ends of the spectrum. Like one you're
Yes.
like probably super stressed out, and the other one you're completely calm. It's weird that it can produce the same results like that. That's interesting. How would you say? Is there any way you could kind of get that same result through working out, like exercise, like weightlifting, or is that this is not the same?
No, it's not. This is not to say that the brain is involved in everything we do, but it's involved in everything we do in different ways. And
Mm.
I'll show you one example now. We know from studies that the moment the foot makes impact with the ground, the higher part, the centers of the brain which are responsible for higher thinking and analytical thought, are activated. Whereas if we lift weights, again, we get the same benefits in terms of oxygenation in our bloodstream, coordination of the body, we get all those things. But critical thinking isn't activated to the same degree because it's not required. Now you're going to say, why is that? And for that, we have to go back to sort of anthropology, evolutionary anthropology, and the way we sort of evolved. In the past, 10,000 years ago, when we had to run, we either had to run for our lives or we had to run for our food. And both of those things require the capacity to analyze what's happening around us and make critical decisions. If we're running for our lives and we fail to do that correctly, we get eaten. If we are running for our food and we fail to do that, we go hungry, and those outcomes are not positive. So basically, when we're running, our brain kicks into high gear. And you probably have noticed yourself, if you go for a walk and clears your head. What does that mean?
Mm.
It means suddenly, whatever was actually stressing you out, you can see it a lot easier and a lot more clearly. And that's the reason behind that. If you're running at not your top speed, if you're going at a comfortable pace, let's say about a half pace, three-quarters pace, you can find yourself thinking really clearly as you run, even though you're putting your body under stress. And again,
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason behind that. Whereas if you're lifting weights, you don't have the same benefits on that. Although the physiological changes are the same, right? You still get oxygenation in the bloodstream, you still get, blood vessels opening and closing, heart rate going up. The physiology is very similar, but the brain itself responds differently to the different context.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's crazy how the brain works. I don't understand it.
Well, nobody does. There's
Yep.
everything we know right now. There's a breakthrough being made pretty much every single day, and we know so
Mhm.
much more than we did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and yet we know just a tiny little bit. It's like having the tip of the iceberg. So it's really exciting times.
You're talking about we know more each and every day, and that brings up the idea of AI because AI is booming right now.
It
So
is, yeah, yeah.
what what is your thoughts on AI in the fitness industry? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad? Obviously, it's going to be a good thing eventually, but where do you see AI and fitness coming into play?
I think that artificial intelligence is a tool which will enable us to do more, faster, easier, and a more controlled way. So let's talk about fitness, right? I mean, right now I've got a smartwatch on my hand. It tells me, pretty much tracks how I sleep every night. Sleep is an important element of fitness, and it allows me to sort of plan my day, the next day, based on how well I slept the night before. And I mean, where I am right now, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm gonna get a shorter
Oh
sleep
wow.
tonight. yeah, shorter sleep tonight than most nights. So my next day's training, I'm gonna have to adjust that, right? So this is one classic example of how it can help me actually make those better decisions. But also knowing how active we are during the week, knowing how many calories we actually burn up through that activity, our everyday activity, is important when it comes to planning our fitness, planning our nutrition, planning how we're going to eat. And this is just a very, relatively speaking, dumb example of AI. So
Hmm.
having tools which actually help us understand the impact of our operating system day in, day out, allows us to guide it better. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. It's never really going to replace humans the way that people
Hmm.
think. This is not going to happen. And it's never going to be a Terminator, right? With having what we call artificial general intelligence, AGI. Because again, that's not going to happen. Because for that to happen, it needs to have a body, which actually needs to feel the world. And this is impossible. Okay,
Hmm.
it's just not going to happen the way we do it.
Yeah, I think for like general health, I think AI is going to be great because
Yeah.
just for more information, like, and more people are going to be more educated because it's as simple as searching, like, say you just got your blood work back from your doctor. Well, when you get your blood work back, most normal people don't know what that blood work means. Well, now they
Yes.
can upload that blood work into Chat GPT and say, "Hey, what does this blood work say?" Like, it could be like your second doctor, basically. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what they do in the healthcare industry with AI. I think it's going to help a lot of people in the long run. So I think it's going to be cool to see where we go from here. I mean, we're already seeing all kinds of AI things nowadays, so I think it's pretty interesting.
It is, and the ability. I mean, they were discussing. I think the next generation Samsung watches. I think the ability to actually take your blood pressure through your watch.
Hmm.
So things like that are really important. Okay, I mean, for people who are not generally very fit, blood pressure is a silent killer because they're not aware that they have it, and it can cause anything from heart attack to stroke or whatever. Sort of things like that. So having those tools at our disposal makes us more aware of our bodies and how they function. We can then make better decisions about their fate.
Yeah, hopefully having it on their wrists and it lighting up, blinking. Hopefully that'll help them realize, hey, I need to get on this. I need to
That's
remember
right.
about that.
Yes.
That'll be a good thing for sure. I'm with you. I'm wearing an Apple Watch. Same thing. I track all my stuff too because I'm a fitness person and that's what we do. But
Yep.
yeah, I think it's sometimes it's a little overkill and you get too into the weeds of it and it can be harmful. But I think it's overall a good thing.
It's like everything, right? I mean, we need to sort of have a kind of parameter on how we use it so we don't go
Mm,
overboard, as you say. But when it comes to actually planning things, having better knowledge of what's happening to us is a good thing.
absolutely. I had a question in mind and now I forgot it. Oh,
It's all right.
so
Yeah.
as you can probably tell, the title of the podcast is the fitness beginner. So we try to help people get started, help people get going,
Mm.
get started on the fitness
Mm.
journey. That's kind of the whole idea. We keep things at a very high level normally, except when I have people on like you that can kind of dive deeper into more different topics. Before, from a basic high level, for general people, what's kind of your philosophy on fitness? What should they do at a high level, as far as exercising and as far as nutrition goes? I mean, I think we all pretty much know the answer at this point, but everybody else has their own philosophy. So I kind of just want to hear what would you say to somebody that's getting started today? What should they do?
Okay. So normally, somebody who wants to start is battling with two things. The first thing is themselves, and the second thing is the world around them, which tells them what to do. So I would say if you're going to start, this is where you start from. Start from you and think, who are you really inside yourself, and why do you want to do this? And you need to have this kind of clarity for yourself if you're going to continue. If you don't know who you are, then you don't know why you do things. And if you don't ask yourself why you do things, you'll never understand what is it that drives you. So this is the first question you need to ask yourself. Who am I really? What does this mean to me? And why do I want to do it? And the second thing is, essentially you start with what is easiest for you to do. Some people like walking, do that. Some people like, cycling, pick that up. You want to do some lifting, no, and you're predisposed towards it, great, let's do that. And why do we go with the easiest path? Because exercising is hard anyway, life is hard as well. Working out in our head who we are and what we do is also hard. So if we try and sort of start with a hard part of exercising, it becomes way too difficult and we're not unlikely to stick with it. So always find, like water, find the easiest path for you. And then from there, you'll actually be able to evolve and grow, and things will change, and your perspective will change, and that's a great thing. But in the beginning, just do what's easiest for you.
Yeah, I like that answer, because something I've said before is exactly what you said. Like, most people, when they get started, they try to do too much all at once, and then they end up just quitting because it's just overload. It's overkill. So I always like to say, you just need to do more than what you're doing right now. So if you're not doing anything right now, literally you just need to do a little bit more than that, and you'll start seeing progress. So maybe that means going for a walk. And I love that answer now, going for a walk. I used to be that guy that would always say, you need to do more than walk. Like, you at least need to run. Well, that was young me. I didn't realize the benefits of walking back then. Now I love to say walking. That's my first answer every time. Go for a walk, because it's so accessible. It's generally easy for most people to do. It's something you can actually enjoy. It's not going to destroy your body. So it's a great place for people to start, and I highly, highly recommend walking, especially when you're first getting started. Like, that should be the first thing you do. Or besides changing your diet. Diet, I think, is probably number one. Then number two, you should start walking. So I like that you said, I like how you answered, you just need to find something that works for you.
And thank you for mentioning diet here, okay? Sure enough, I mean, there are ideal ways to feed ourselves, which are really good for us, and they're always kind of hard to stick to. So again, with diet, it's starting small. Make small improvements. If your diet is atrocious, cut out one thing which you understand is hurting you, and keep on going with the other things. Then slowly, gradually, you're going to improve on those as well. But trying to go from 0 to 100 again on food and nutrition is again hard, because you have to relearn things. Your body has to relearn new tastes. You have to probably learn how to cook things differently. It's just too much. So just, if you're concerned about your diet, improve one little thing and move on from there.
Exactly. I say the same exact thing. And same goes with your fit, like you're working out, you're exercising. Same thing for that. Start with one little thing and then try to add it. Like, if you're not working out at all right now, don't think you're going to start going to the gym 5 days a week. Let's be honest, you're not going to do that. You may do it for a month, but you're going to end up quitting. Literally just start with a day or 2 days at most, just starting out. And when you can get consistent with that, then add another day. And then maybe add 15 more minutes to your exercise or something. Don't try to go, like you said, 0 to 100, because you're just not going to make that drastic of a change super quick. Now, there are some random people out there that will. They'll go 0 to 100 and it works for them. But for 99% of people, that's not the case. I like to say, just keep it simple and add one thing at a time. It's always about the habit stacking. Just stack one habit at a time.
That's really sound advice. Yeah,
people try to get too fancy. Just keep it simple. Tone it way back. Keep things simple, and you will. If you have consistency that we talked about earlier, you will see results over time. It's just people. There's so much crazy stuff online nowadays that you see with, like, all these different exercises and routines that people are doing, and yeah, they're cool and all, and they work for certain people, but for the majority of people, that's not the case. You just need to do the basic lifts that we've been doing for hundreds of years, eat the basic foods that we've been eating for thousands of years, and you'll see results. I promise. People just, they want it too quick. They want the results tomorrow, and that's not going to happen.
That's so true. And again, this is why your who and why is so important. Because if you don't really know who you are, then anything which has to do with fitness, let's talk about fitness now, right? In particular, is going to be a received message from an external source. That's going to be something that works for them and it's perhaps entirely unrealistic for you because you're not in the same situation. And it's only going to make you feel bad. It's going to make you feel that you can't do it. And fitness is all about things we can do. So yeah, it's really important. And keeping it basic, as you said, we know that it works. We've had hundreds
Hmm.
and thousands of years of actual examples where it actually delivers the results that we need. So yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit more about your professional side of things away from fitness because you've done some pretty interesting things. You have written several books. So I want to
Yeah.
hear a little bit more about what you do um, with just outside of fitness because you obviously have a pretty cool career and you have a lot going on. So what's kind of like your background? What do you do full time? Is fitness your full time? Or I know
No,
you're an
no,
author.
fitness is a hobby. Well, a lot of my time is spent writing, obviously.
Hmm.
But because I've written books on search in particular, and then branding and business development, especially in the online world and social media and how the dynamics come together. I'm usually called to help C-suite executives understand what they're seeing a little bit better, so then they can go back to their teams and fashion their own marketing strategy and search strategy and internal sort of communication strategy better. So I do a lot of that these days, and I used to travel a lot. Back in 2019, in that single year, I did 55,000 air miles. It was crazy, and I sort of had to go to Shanghai twice within a month, which is it's brutal when you're doing these long flights. But most of the times these days, I try to Zoom call it. It's a lot healthier for me,
Hmm.
and it's a lot less stressful. And we sort of then work through email, and then we do it in person if necessary. So yeah, that's what I do sort of outside fitness.
That's awesome. So and you said you were an engineer? Is that what you went to school
I'm
for
a chemical
engineering?
engineer. Yeah,
Chemical
I'm
engineer.
actually, yeah.
So how
So
how did you
basically,
segue
yeah.
from chemical engineering to search on social media, things like that?
Well, it's mathematics. Everything we do is modeled on maths, and maths
Hmm.
basically models our behavior. I mean, ChatGPT, right? It models our language. So that's mathematics driving it. And all it does in ChatGPT, it says, okay, here's a sentence. Here's the structure of the sentence. It starts with this word. It's followed by this word. What's the next probable word? There's a probability factor. And it does it, and suddenly it speaks like us, right? When we talk to each other, we make the same decisions, except we kind of don't run the maths at a conscious level. But this is what we do. When you say to, you meet your friend and you have a few choices in your head which you're running through. You say, hey, bro, or you can say, hi, Mac, whatever his name is, or you can say, hello, sir. And all three are acceptable within different contexts, right? It depends with the relationship with that person,
Hmm.
your status with that person, and how well you know them, etc. So you run this probability through pretty much every person you meet, but you do it so quickly and efficiently, you're not even aware of it. You do it just like that. Well, that's mathematics. So everything we see around us in the world is actually modeled by mathematics. And if it can't be modeled by mathematics, either we don't see it or we see it but we don't understand it.
So when did you know that you had an art for writing? How did you know you were? Did you just always like writing? Is that something that you did as a
Yeah,
hobby
actually
or?
did. Yeah, I mean, ever since I can, ever, as far back as I can remember, there's two constants in my life: exercise and writing. So yeah, it's. I mean, they both do the same thing, right? Through the writing, I understand the world around me, and then I help others understand what I understand.
Hmm.
And through exercise, I understand myself a little bit better.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely am not a writer by no means. I did not get like the kind of artistic side of things. I was always an athlete growing up, so I wasn't that wasn't my cup of tea, if I had to say. But I do
It's
like
it,
fitness though, so we have that in
yeah,
common.
yeah, and through what you do physically, you get to know yourself better. You know your limitations. You understand part of your drives. You develop your grit, right, which allows you to do things in a greater context. So these tools we always use when we can.
Yeah, I like to say fitness is kind of like the the beginning of, or let me see how the best way to say it. It's kind of like the first step of being like successful at whatever you're doing. So like, say
Yes.
you're a successful writer. So fitness has a role in your writing, even though they're not related. But it kind of gets you maybe in the right mindset. It gets you
Yes.
practicing those right, creating those right habits and things like that. So fitness, I always say, impacts every other aspect of your life, whether you
It
believe it or
does.
not. It has a
Yeah.
positive, in my opinion, positive impact on whatever it is you're doing, whether that's your career, whether that's your relationship, a goal that you're trying to achieve. Yeah, I think it has like a trickle down effect on all those other areas of your life. So that's why I like fitness a lot, because it makes me
Yeah.
better in every aspect of my life. Like it makes me more well rounded in everything I do.
It's actually the foundation of everything, Murphy, and you're absolutely right. You know, here's what it is. I mean, if we sort of take away the glamour of it, the glamorous part, where we are fast and strong and capable, if we just fit, which means that we're healthy and we have good energy management in our body, because we're healthy and our body's not fighting disease, it's not fighting inflammation, so it's working at a relatively optimal state. Then we are better human beings. We make better decisions because we feel happier. We have better relationships. We're more successful because we make cumulatively better decisions. So what you
Hmm.
said is absolutely golden, right? Because it's that foundation which builds everything else. If we take health away, then everything becomes a struggle. Every single day is a struggle, which means that a lot of your energy is just based on surviving. And then you have very little to give to everything else. Relationships, work, careers, whatever it is. So yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, so y'all heard it here first. If you want to be successful at something, start your fitness journey. That's the number one
Yes.
step to getting better or accomplishing whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So I want to respect your time. We're coming up close to an hour now. Was there any questions that you maybe wanted to ask me before we come to a close here?
Well, I was just wondering, when you were going through that 100-mile race, which is absolutely amazing feat, right? I mean, it's just brilliant. What kind of thought got you through the last 28 miles, which were brutal?
Oh, I had all kinds of thoughts in my head. um, one thing that definitely kept me going is I didn't want to let people down. So I talk about
Yes.
it a lot. I talk about my goals a lot, either on the podcast or on social media, and I do that for a reason. I don't do it to brag or to flaunt or anything like that. I don't do it for that reason. I do it strictly to hold me accountable, to hold me true to
Yes.
my word. Because when I put it out there to other people, they're seeing it, and then if I
Yes.
don't finish, they gonna know that I didn't finish. So I put it out there. So that's kind of like my own like little accountability partners. I put it out there
Yep.
to other people, and that holds me accountable because I don't want to fail. I don't want to be a failure. So that kind of
Yes.
holds me accountable. That kept me going. Two, I had my family there. They were kind of helping me crew and things like that. So I didn't want them. They had to
Okay.
drive like 4 hours to get there. So I didn't want to let them
Whoa.
down.
Okay. Yeah.
And just the fact that one, I get to do something hard. I get to challenge myself. There's a lot of people in this world that can't do something like that physically.
Yep.
They can't be there. I have two legs that work and I can run, and I'm so
Yes.
grateful for that. And I will never take that for granted, because you never know, you may not have that tomorrow. So that's
Yes.
something that I think about. I don't know. There's a lot of, it's hard. This is a very
No, it's a lot, and
complex
actually,
question.
everything what you said, it's. I mean, it's a lot of emotionality in all those things. It's your identity. It's a fact that you don't want to let people down because they believe in you, and also you believe in yourself, and I think that's really important. And I think in everything you said, absolutely everything, it's how essentially, it's our who and our why, right? So essentially, that's the kind of thinking that tells you who you are, who you really are. Not somebody who brags, somebody puts on a show, but somebody who actually believes in something, does it for the right reasons, believes in themselves, understands it's going to be difficult, but they have such calculus of the value of what they're doing, that they're willing to go through that trial, go through the pain, and get to the other end. So I think that's brilliant. That's exactly, right. And if we can all learn from that.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier about fitness kind of helps you know your limits more. Well, that's kind of another reason I kind of do these things. I want to challenge myself. I want to push these limits to see what they are. Because honestly, I would have said I can never run 100 miles. There's no way I could do that. But now that I've done it, I know I can do it. So it's
Yes.
a, it's a, I guess a pride thing. I want to know that I can do it, and it makes me realize that I can do anything I put my mind to if I really want it. If I really work hard towards it, because I trained for several months for it, that I can do a lot harder things than I realize I can. Because until you actually do it, until you actually push yourself out there,
Yes.
you don't know what you're capable of. You really don't. You can do a lot
Exactly.
more than what you realize, because either your brain's going to tell you, hey, I can't do this. I need to quit. I need to stop. Or your body may physically shut down or something. But you never know until you give it a try, until you go all in.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been doing all these crazy challenges. So this year I did an ultra marathon. Last year I did a bodybuilding show. And then the year before that I did an Ironman. So three
Okay.
totally different things, but they're all very hard challenges that were very hard for me to do. But I stuck to it. I trained for them, and I accomplished all three of them. So it's a very good, cool learning experience. I've learned a lot, especially in fitness, because they're all fitness related. So I've learned a lot
Yes.
there. So that helps me a lot too when it comes to my own fitness journey and helping other people in their fitness journey as well. So there's a lot of reasons I do what I do. And I enjoy it. I like fitness all around. I like doing it. It's just something, it's like my hobby. I like to
Really
think of
good.
it. Yeah.
I think that's also, and I think the fact that you can contribute to the world in this way, that's a good thing. You know, Eh, if each of us raises another 2 3 people around us, that's an amazing effect to have. So I think this is really cool.
Yeah. I love doing the podcast, and I do some social media stuff. I like to make YouTube videos and stuff. And it's all just to hopefully inspire somebody else to start their fitness journey, to get healthy. I know sometimes when you're posting online, sometimes people can get the wrong idea of, hey, they're just trying to brag or whatever, about what they're doing. And a lot of social media is that way. You show all the good things about what's going on in your life, not necessarily the bad, but the whole idea is just try to help people, get people going, hopefully inspire somebody, spark some fire into somebody, and help them get going, get started. Because fitness is something that's impacted my life in a positive way, something that I enjoy doing, and I just want to share that with other people so that they can experience the benefits from it as well. So that's kind of why I do what I do.
That's awesome. I think that's brilliant. That's really, really good.
Yep. So to end off the podcast, I just want to give you the chance to let everybody know where they can find your book, where they can find anything else about you, how they can get in contact with you if they need to. Just tell everybody where they can find you at.
Okay, yeah, you can get Built to Last on Amazon or any online bookshop or any bookshop in your local area. They can order it in if they haven't got it. You'll find me at davidamerland.com, and if you Google me, all my socials come up, so you'll find me that way.
Awesome. And thank you so much for staying up. Would you say 1:30 in the morning? I didn't realize we were that big of a
That's
time
okay, don't
difference.
worry. Yeah.
If I would have
Part of my
known,
job sometimes, yes. But it's really cool, and I really enjoyed this. I'm really glad I did it because I learned a lot about you. It's just brilliant, and I'm very glad we're connected.
oh yeah, thank you for joining. I always enjoy talking to different people in the fitness industry, because everybody has so many different stories and different areas that they focus on. So I learn a lot talking to other people. I love getting to do these interviews on the podcast as much as I can.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, thanks so much for joining the podcast. Hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. We'll see y'all again next week for another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast.